nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Active Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el misbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom. Shalom, mi nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Active Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el misbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom. Mi nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Hacktivac Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el misbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios
Shalom, everyone. We uh, got several announcements before we get going, and let me kind of move this so that the glare from my glasses isn't so bad. First off, I want to ask for prayer for Scott Cole. Scott has Parkinson's disease, and it's becoming more and more. I don't want to say more and more of a problem. Is the disease is progressing. Okay, so please be holding him up in prayer. Also, I want to ask prayer for our 2 daughter-in-laws and their babies. We have our son Jacob and his wife Caitlin. Their baby has a heart condition. They're going to do a C-section on the 21st of January, and the baby will face immediate surgery. And it could be there's the big thing to pray for, outside of a miracle from God, is that it's the lesser of the 2 heart problems. The one would require multiple surgeries over the first few years. The second is our son David and his wife Brandy. She has gestational diabetes, and they are expecting her to deliver at any time. And they possibly are going to induce labor or do a C-section. Now, the baby is small. The baby is right at 5 pounds. And one of the things that is concerning is Brandy's losing weight rather than gaining weight. And so please be praying for them. She has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. And Debbie advised her today to get a second opinion, whatever they tell her. And so, at any rate, please be praying for them. Okay. Now, today, we're out of it now, but it has been one of the fast days. And it's mentioned, it really aggravates me whenever people will come along and say, "Oh, well, that's not biblical." It is biblical. In fact, it's mentioned by date as the fast of the fast of the 10th month in the book of Zechariah. And it is very, very biblical. And we have 4 fasts that are connected. So we have the 10th of Tevet, we have the 17th of Tammuz, we have the 9th of Av, and then we have the 3rd of Tishri. And they're all interrelated. Now, um, I am one that believes that the biblical dates that are recorded in Scripture, has special meanings. Events occur on them, and the world is going to the world. Actually, the center of the world is going to be Jerusalem. The center of Jerusalem is going to be the Temple Mount, and everything is going to revolve around that. But the world doesn't ever see it that way. The world is totally oblivious to all of that. Now, um, I am going to share my screen. If you give me a second here. Okay. Okay. So we are at a position right now that we have just come out of the 10th of Tevet. We're right now in the 11th of Tevet. And Tevet being the name of the 10th month. And we are about to go into the Gregorian New Year. Okay. And so we're about to start 2026. And so we're not only going to talk about the 10th of Tevet, we're going to talk about where the world is right now. Now, I've mentioned several times that I receive daily updates on the news. I'm going to take you through 3 days. In fact, the last 3 days, that'd be today, yesterday, and the day before. That would be the 8th, 9th, and 10th of Tevet. And just get for you to see what I see. Okay. In other words, I'm not talking about what I see when I read the updates, what I see just verbatim as they are. Okay. So let's go to the first one. This is on the 8th of Tevet. This was January 2028. And we have an urgent war alert. Major Western cities canceling New Year's celebrations due to credible terror attack threats. Now, by the way, each of these, when I go to the site, there are websites I can go to. The majority are going to be from X, some will be from Israel 365, and other credible world sites. Websites. Okay, the UK MI6 issues warning of Al Qaeda sleeper cells ready at any moment now to conduct a new 9/11 attack in the United Kingdom. Iran has informed Israel via third parties if Israel attacks Hezbollah, Iran will immediately enter the war and defend Hezbollah. Now, that's typical type of thing we expect from Iran anyway. U.S. is rapidly deploying land-based missile systems to Germany as Russia rapidly deploys military forces into Belarus. Iranian president announces Iran is in the midst of total war against Israel, the U.S., and Europe. And that should be no surprise to anyone. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will inform President Trump neither Turkey nor Palestine can deploy forces into Gaza will request a green light from Trump to conduct new strikes against Iran. Now, as we get to today's news, you'll see a little bit concerning that. It is rather absurd that these peacekeeping forces that are coming into Gaza, many of them have been promoters of Hamas. And so the question is, what are they going to do in regards to disarming? What are they going to do in regards to actually being a force that keeps Hamas? It has a lot of scary parts to it. Russia opposes Taiwan independence in any form and calls Taiwan an inseparable part of China. Loud explosions and fires reported near I-5 in Castaic, California, as natural gas line explodes, shelter-in-place order issued. Seattle schools quizzing students as young as 11 years old on sexual orientation and drug use. Now, that's not going to be a big surprise to any of us. In fact, all of the headlines that we read here, I don't think any of you would be surprised by them. Okay. But as we go forward, there's going to be some things that come out, and I think it's going to go, wow, that applies to me. Okay. And I say that because I'm the same way. All right. Now we're going to yesterday's. This is the headlines from Monday, January 29th, which is the 9th of Tevet, and China making moves on Taiwan. Now we're going to start to see at this point massive things concerning China and Taiwan. Now, most of you are aware that there have been tensions between the two, that the Chinese have periodically, almost regularly, violated the Taiwanese airspace, that their ships have approached out of the international waters into the waters of the waters of Taiwan. And this is not a new occurrence. What will be different is exactly the you'll see it has gone from a daily occurrence to a major daily occurrence. Okay. Gigantic. All right. Trump to meet face to face with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at 1300 Eastern Time today. That's 1 o'clock. And that was yesterday. Iran developing unconventional chemical, biological warheads for ballistic missiles. That is a major concern. I mean, absolutely major. Especially with their capability to attack Israel. Anti-Iranian protesters take to the streets of Tehran, Iran. Now, that indicates major problems within Iran. What is amazing about this is that the Iranian government literally kills hundreds of these people when they protest, and the fact that they're doing it, it's major. Okay. Israel, Cyprus, and Greece sign military agreement certain to enrage Turkey. Let's see. All right, China making moves on Taiwan. Taiwan mobilizing forces and places all force on full combat alert. Trump to meet face to face with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. We've already done this one. Okay. Let's go forward. IDF forces arrest several terrorists near Ramallah as violent riots erupt. Now, that's not that unusual, but it is significant. New 2,000-year-old mikveh discovered under the Western Wall in Jerusalem. And I've been down into the excavations they're doing there, and the number of mikvaot is becoming they're or discovering almost regularly these mikvaot, and they seem to be clustered in certain areas. Okay, massive corruption operation detected by the FBI and the Minnesota state government just the tip of the iceberg, details to emerge soon. 2026 will be the year of war with Russia, China, and Iran. That is going to be some predictions that were given. All are major. Now, this is today's. China announces the second day of military exercises surrounding Taiwan. Now, let me explain. China was doing a military exercise. They have done military exercises around Taiwan before, in the vicinity of Taiwan, and it's always a concern of major importance as they do this, because they've got their troops assembled, they've got their equipment assembled, they are in position that if it is a smokescreen to an actual invasion, they're on the scene ready to go. Okay. Now they had put out that they were going to have a one-day exercise, and they brought all of these ships in. I'm going to give you some figures in just a few moments. Now they have announced that exercise that was one day is extended to a second day. Okay, so Taiwan confirms China has launched long-range live-fire ballistic and cruise missiles north of Taiwan. China announces the beginning of the second day of the current military exercise. China releases video depicting naval ships conducting patrol and control operations around Taiwan. Taiwanese president says the nation will react calmly, but will preserve the nation's security. Chinese warplanes. Now, catch these figures. Chinese warplanes, warships, and other vessels violated Taiwanese territory multiple times. This involved 130 Chinese military aircraft, 14 naval vessels, 8 Coast Guard vessels were detected operating or operated around the island of Taiwan, with 90 out of 130 of the aircraft crossing the median line and entering Taiwan's northern, central, southwestern air defense identification zone. Now, there are videos that are out on X, they've been put out on X, where you see Chinese warships or coastal ships, and at the same time you see the Taiwan ships going to intercept them. And so we've got this situation that is very much active. Before we go, China publishes 2 new exercise posters depicting Taiwan surrounded and cut off from international military aid. China warns the U.S. immediately halt all arms sales to Taiwan, and warns the U.S. cannot stop Chinese reunification with Taiwan. New Pentagon report sparking World War III. Fears as report confirms China readying and deploying mobile nuclear ICBMs. Now, before we read the last of these, I want to speak a little bit more about the Chinese situation. We've got hot spots all over the world, okay? And what I find significant is that we're going out of 2025, we're going into 2026. What I find significant is that in this year's calendar, that as we come up to the New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day, we immediately approach the 10th of Tevet. Okay, so Russia confirms our hypersonic mobile nuclear missiles are now on active combat duty in Belarus. Tensions explode between Yemen and the United Arab Emirate. Yemen government declares a 90-day emergency, expels all UAE, United Arab Emirates personnel, initiates a blockade on all air, sea, and land ports, declares all defense agreements with the UAE are now immediately null and void, and prepares the nation for all-out war. U.S. military conducts drone strikes against port facility in Venezuela. Saudi Arabian airstrike conducts airstrikes on southern Yemen ports. Saudi begins deploying ground forces, armor forces, missile forces, and air force assets near the border with Yemen. Saudi Arabia warns the UAE to withdraw military forces from Yemen within 24 hours, warns any threat of violation against Saudi Arabia is a red line. Minnesota, the Somali daycare scandal now escalates and is discovered to have spread into Washington State and Los Angeles. Israeli media postulates Israeli Mossad fomenting the current uprising in Iran as protests against the Iranian regime continue and escalate. Iranian security forces fire into protesters. Trump states he supports Israel's right to strike Iran, this is as of today, and says the strike should be immediate. Netanyahu warns Trump Iran may soon be targeting American cities with nuclear weapons. Now, remember, earlier we had about that they are developing biological and chemical warfare, okay, to be able to put onto these missiles. I mentioned it as an immediate threat to Israel, but if you expand this out and you put the two together, there is also a threat to the United States. Now, the last one is almost a joke. Iran just declared the Canadian Navy to be a terror organization. Okay. But that last one's kind of interesting because in the media, it is becoming more and more frequent. I don't want to say frequent. I'm going to say that it is the media is overwhelmed with similar statements concerning Israel. Okay, statements like that Bibi controls Trump. Statements like that the Israelis were involved in the Australian terrorist attack against the Jewish community at the beginning of Hanukkah. Statements, and I read one today, that they were involved in 9/11 here in the United States. Okay. And people shrug it off. It is very, very common. Right now, we have the Republican Party is splitting over issues with Israel. We have, I mean, it's just become absurd, all of these things. Now, most of these headlines you would have heard in some form. I mean, you might not have been up to date on the Chinese drill, their war games around Taiwan in the last few days, but you've known that there's been these issues with Taiwan, certainly with Russia, everything with the Ukraine war, Venezuela. The Middle East is not going to be any surprise because it's always a hotbed. We all have been seeing about the scandal with the Somalis and everything that is happening there. One thing that I do find amazing is that we did not have anything about ICE and deportations in the last 3 days. Okay. But we're going to go in and we're going to start talking about the 10th of Tevet. Now, this is from an article. I have the very first part of an article that came out several years ago on the 10th of Tevet by Rabbi David Foreman. And actually, it was not he that put the article out, but one on his staff. And it was tremendous. The 10th of Tevet has a special meaning to my family. As our daughter Yael, this is the day, the 10th of Tevet is the day that her heart stopped. Okay. And so I especially am watching and looking as we come to the 10th of Tevet. All right. So now in the article, as I mentioned, I'm only going to have the first part of this article. And then I have another article, and we'll talk as we go, that was in today's news from Israel 365. Okay, so every year we have 4 different fast days that commemorate the events surrounding our national exile. They are Shiva Asar Beit Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, when the Babylonians broke through the walls of Jerusalem to capture the city. Okay. Then 3 weeks later, we have Tisha B'Av, the day that the first and second temples were destroyed. Then right after Rosh Hashanah, we have Zom Gedalah. This is going to be on the 3rd of Tishri, the day that the last hope for Jewish sovereignty in Israel after the destruction was violently slashed out. In other words, when the Babylonian appointed governor, a Jewish man, when he was slain, and it's very interesting, he was slain by 10 men slew him. And at that, Nebuchadnezzar said, that's it. The Jewish state, it ceases now. Okay. It was over at that point. Now, a lot of people, the majority of people, have no idea why we fast on the 10th of Tevet. Okay, so the 17th of Tammuz, when they broke through the walls, the night of Av, when they destroyed the temple, the 3rd of Tishri, when they said it's over and everybody's deported. Okay, everybody is taken into exile at that time. Okay, but the 10th of Tevet, most people don't see how it fits into that. Okay, so all right. Finally, I saw Beit Tevet, when the Babylonian army surrounded the walls of Jerusalem, where they waited for 2.5 years. Oh, they also built some towers there. Okay, this is what the lady had in her article. Okay, when the army surrounded the walls, let me give you another word for it. It is they laid siege. The siege went into effect on the 10th of Tevet of Jerusalem. Conquest, destruction, exile, the downfall of the kingdom. Each of these is a really big deal. A standalone catastrophe, and then there's Asar Beit Tevet, the 10th of Tevet. A foreign nation surrounds Jerusalem walls and puts up some scaffolding. You'll see in this, they built some towers. That's almost like an afterthought. And that a foreign nation surrounds Jerusalem walls and put up some scaffolding. She's purposely not mentioning the siege has begun. Okay. She is presenting it. It's no big deal. Okay. And so let's go to the next slide. They didn't invade. They didn't shoot any arrows or take any captives. They just came and set up camp. Why fast on this day? Now, it's true that Asar Beit Tevet, the 10th of Tevet, doesn't seem to be so significant when compared to the other 3 fast days. But if we look at how the days are described in the Tanakh, a slightly different picture begins to emerge. A picture that helps us to understand why Asar Beit Tevet is commemorated with its own fast day. The first place is described as at the end of Malachim, 2 Kings, where we were given a play-by-play of the siege and the events that followed it. We find a very similar account of the final chapter of the book of Yirmiyahu. We also hear about it, though, in the book of Yehezkel in chapter 24, and unlike Malachim, Kings, and Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, Yehezkel gives us a different perspective. Now, I want to, for a moment, when we take a group to Jerusalem, we always go to the city of David. I remember when at the city of David, there was hardly anything to see. We used to go down there and everybody was caught on guard because it was a Muslim community. And back then they had not identified where the Shiloh pool was. We knew where it was, but it had not yet been excavated, identified, and so forth. We could see this big depression in the ground, and we taught that's the Shiloh. And there would be even guides and scholars that would say, you can't say that, you don't know that. Okay. There was no David's palace. There was no the stepstone street that's going up. There was no water channel to go through. There was no Gavati parking lot with all the various things. There was no going into underneath, going down to the foundation stones of the Holy Temple. In fact, when you went to the southwestern corner of the Temple Mount, you actually were not that far below where the arch springs out of the wall. There's an inscribed stone on the wall, and it was done about in the 4th century Common Era by a Jewish pilgrim that came and he quoted a verse, he inscribed a verse on a stone there from Isaiah 65, I think it's verse 11, but he got interrupted apparently because he didn't finish someone chased him away. And I have a picture of Debbie and I. We're on one side of the inscribed stone, and she's on the other side. And it's right there, like at the top of our head. Okay. Now, when you go, you're on the street that's at the southwestern corner, and you look up, and it's quite a ways up to that stone. And then up above that is the arch coming out. None of that was there back then. There was no trumpeting stone that you could look at. They already had it, but now they have the actual top of the temple, that corner, and they have a replica of the inscription for the trumpeting stone. The actual stone is in the Israel Museum. But the uh, the now we go, and my goodness, it is amazing what you see. I mean, it's literally just unbelievable, all the various things that you see and the progress that's been made and the understanding not only of the city of David, but the understanding of Jerusalem in the first temple period and Jerusalem in the second temple period. And so it's been a constantly changing as new revelations, just like they found a new mikvah in the last few days. And so, at any rate, the let me just go back to the slides and we'll go forward, and I'll bring in this point I want to bring as we go. All right. All right. So I didn't enlarge this enough, but it says, now this is from Yehezkel chapter 24. And it says he was a prophet already living in exile in Babylonia. This is the prophet Yehezkel at the time of the siege of Jerusalem. On that day, the 10th of Tevet, Yehezkel received a message from God. But instead of telling Yehezkel about the details of what was happening in Jerusalem, God sends him a different kind of message. Let's take a look. And so, verse 1 and 2, again, in the 9th year, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month. Okay, so that's very, very specific. So that's the 10th of Tevet. On the 10th day of the month, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, write down the name of the day, this very day. Wow. So let me see if I can enlarge this. I think I'm going to enlarge the Hebrew. If I can. All right, that's better. Okay, So there is several things in here. One is the fact that Hashem says to Yehezkel, write down the name of the day. Okay. And so where you see that, this is where we have two, this is a gloss, Ketov or Katav. This is to write, Lecha et Shem, write down the name. Hayom of the day, et Zim Hayom Hazeh. Okay. The king of Babylon started his siege against Jerusalem this very day. Okay. Now I want to show you something. You see this right here at Zim Hayom Hazeh, and we have Be'et Zim Hayom Hazeh. It's double in there. Okay, so let's go forward. I can't believe all these when I formatted them, they got much, much smaller. Let's see. All right, that'll be better. All right, God said, write down this day and record it. That's Et Hazim Hayam Hazeh. The self-same day, the king of Babylon, Jerusalem. Okay, I didn't put down the where it says write down to record it, but that's the Katov. The self-same day, that's the Et Zim Hayom Hazeh. On this self-same day, Be'et Zim Hayom Hazeh. And the phrase Et Zim Hayom Hazeh, the self-same day, shows up not once, but twice. Okay, a self-same day, that's the way it's translated many times, includes an event that is so dramatic that what came before it is forever changed. So that's this phrase that is used for the 10th of Tevet in Yehezkel is going to be found several places else in the Tanakh. But every time you see it, it means the world changes. The world changes. It will never come back to where it was. Okay. And so that's tremendously significant. And let me see, I think I didn't, yeah. Okay. So it will never come back to where it was. And so, well, the first one is going to be found in the book of Bereshit, chapter 7, verse 13. And in chapter 7, verse 13, let me read it to you out of the Stone Tanakh. It says, when Noah and his family stepped into the ark, as the world around them is about to be drowned out by the flood, the Torah says, Be'ezim Hayom Hazeh, the old world is coming to an end, and at the same time, on that self-same day, the potential for life in the new world enters into the safety of the ark. Now, let me read the verse to you, and we'll stop sharing for a moment. Okay, so this is the art scroll. On that very day, okay, and so it starts off in verse 13. It starts off, Be'etzim Hayom Hazeh. So on that very day, on that self-same day, Noah came with Shem, Ham, and Japhet, Noah's sons with Noah's wife, and the three wives of his sons with them into the ark, they and every beast after its kind, every animal after its kind, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, and every bird of any kind of wing. And as you go forward, it says, and God shut the door. Okay. In other words, that you were either in the ark on that day or you were outside the ark. For those in the ark, they're going to have a time of seclusion. But if you're outside the ark, there's nowhere to go. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. We see it again at the moment of the Exodus from Egypt. This would be Shemot 13:3. As Israel turns their back on hundreds of years of slavery, we have the expression, Be'etzim Hayom Hazeh, they're transformed into free people. This is the end of the Egyptian slavery. It marks the moment when their exile comes to an end and their redemption begins. Okay, now that's a key phrase, and their redemption begins. Here in Yehezkel, also, wait, I'm not sharing. Let me share. Okay. Here in Yehezkel, it's also Be'ezim Hayom Hazeh, but how is Asara Tevet such a massive transitional moment, such an epic event that it ushers in a new age of history? Every year on the 10th of Tevet, Jews fast to commemorate a day when absolutely nothing fell apart yet. Okay, they commemorate a fast. The Babylonian army has arrived, but there's not been any battle. They start setting up their siege works, but there's no fighting. And in fact, it will be 3.5 years before Jerusalem falls. In fact, if we go exactly from the 10th of Tevet in the same year, now theirs is 3.5 years, so don't get it confused. 3.5 years. If we go forward to the 9th of Av, is exactly 9 months in one calendar year. Now, before I was talking about when we would go to the city of David and all the things that you see there. You can go into where King David's palace was. You can see where Jeremiah was held in prison. Okay, and the actual cistern they have located where he was thrown down into the cistern. You can go down from David's palace, and there's what's called the stepstone structure. And the stepstone structure, I might actually have an illustration of this. I might not, so we'll see. Show you these. I'll show you that one. Give me a second. All right, these will work. All right, let's stop sharing. This right here, this is what we would call a stepstone structure. And up on top of it is where David's palace sat. Okay. And there is a house. You see this house right here. Okay. And that is what they have redrawn is this house. Okay. This is what it would have looked like back at the time of David. Now, I'm going to turn back over here. And there is a particular little place right here. Okay. Now if you look close, there's something sitting in that room, and that is still sitting there. Okay. It's not something that they thought was there. It's a toilet. And the toilet was amazing. It's from the time this was a rich person. They had indoor plumbing. They had a toilet. And so they were able to take this toilet when they discovered it. And uh, the archaeologist Igal Shiloh is the one that discovered all this. And this was back in the 1970s. And so they took the toilet and they were able to do testing on it. And they found that the people that lived in this house had types of worms, type of tapeworms and things. And it was caused from eating raw meat. And that's a commentary. The people that see the Babylonians come, they actually feel fairly secure because Jerusalem is such a powerful city. But they're going to be under siege for 3.5 years. And they will eventually run out of food. Only the rich had food to eat. The scriptures record that mothers would eat the fetuses of their babies. I mean, it is a horrible thing. But the rich were eating meat, but they were having to eat it raw because they had run out of firewood. There was no wood in the city. You couldn't cook anything. And I think about seeing that toilet, and I'm thinking about all the various things that had occurred or that were about to occur, that on the day that the army came, people were concerned, but yet they couldn't see what was coming. All right, so let's go back. Oh, I want to show you this before we do that. This is what is called the Gavati parking lot. And I mean, in this picture, it's pretty amazing. In this picture, the city of David or David's palace will be on the other side of this wall. Just right out here, they found where the Akra was from the Hasmonean War. They are constantly, they're still finding so many things. It is unbelievable. And so it's the world of archaeology brings the scripture to life. Okay. But let's go back to our presentation. Okay. All right. No temple burned, no walls crumbled, no one died. The date marks the beginning of Nebuchadnezzar's siege of Jerusalem in 588 BCE, a military encirclement that would result in actual destruction for another 2.5 years. I said 3.5, it's 2.5 years. From inside the city, life continued. Markets operated. Religious services proceeded. Children played in the streets. If you lived in Jerusalem on that day, you might not have noticed anything catastrophic at all. The answer reveals something unsettling about how disaster actually works. We imagine catastrophe as sudden, earthquake, fire, invasion. But the Hebrew prophets understood that true devastation is almost always a slow fade. It's the gradual erosion of foundations that happens so incrementally, we adjust to it instead of resisting it. Here's what makes incremental decline so dangerous. Human beings are astonishingly adaptable. We recalibrate our expectations to match our circumstances. When standards drop gradually, we lower our standards to match. When injustice becomes familiar, we stop recognizing it as injustice. When corruption spreads slowly enough, we start calling it pragmatism. The biblical prophets hammer this point home. Isaiah rages against people who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. Welcome to the nightly news. Oh, I love this. You see this first word in Hebrew? It's hoy. Have you ever heard the expression? Oive. Okay. Well, hoy, oive is going to be from Yiddish, but hoy means ah. Those who call evil good and good evil, who present darkness as light and light as darkness, who present bitter as sweet and sweet as bitter. Now, if you take the expression oy vey, you picture somebody going, oy vey, I can't believe what I heard. I can't believe what I saw. This is okay. And that's where the prophet is coming. He said, boy, this is what's happening. This is what's happening in the last days. They call the evil good and they call the good evil. Isaiah 5:20. Yirmiyahu warns a population that has become so accustomed to lies that they've lost the ability to blush. Remember, I said some of this, as I read through it, I was thinking, I was very quick to point fingers. Yeah, a lot of people do that. And then I started thinking, I do that. I don't take the seriousness of what's happening to heart. I have become accustomed. I've said this numbers of times. So I know a lot of you have been with me for years and years, and you've heard this before. Back when I was a kid, we only had 3 channels on the television. And you had to get up. You didn't have a remote. You had to get up and you had to change it. We had tubes. We didn't have digital boards. You had a television that was deep and wide. I mean, it was a giant. And so there were shows that everybody watched. And there was a documentary that came on the Little Bighorn battle with George Custer. And I was always fascinated with that. And so my parents and my sister and I, we sat down and we watched this documentary. And I had to leave the room at one point because my parents sent me out of the room because one of the soldiers said, "Damn Custer." Now, if you know anything about the battle, Custer divided his force into 3 parts. And so 2 of the parts survived. The part with Custer were totally wiped out. But the ones that survived, they had over 60 dead. Okay. But they got to a hill and they were able to hold out. And they couldn't understand why Custer didn't come to their aid. Okay. And the reverse was true. They didn't go to Custer's aid. Okay. But one of the soldiers up on the hill in the documentary said, "Damn Custer." And my parents made me leave the room because you didn't hear anything along those lines on television. Television was a sacred space. And I mean, everybody had full pajamas on, and husbands and wives slept in separate beds. I mean, there was a code. Okay. Now, maybe that code was too strict. Okay. But where we are today, my goodness, where we are today, the profanity, in the commercials, the sexual presence that permeates them. All of these things, we have grown deaf. We have grown accustomed. We have lowered our standards to where this is the norm. It's a new norm. It doesn't make it a right norm. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Well, actually, we need to go to break. So let me stop and we'll take a break and be back in a few minutes. And if you've been fasting, you can go get you something to drink. And
Shalom, mi nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Hacktivac Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el Mizbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo, y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom. Mi nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Active Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base
All right. Before we start, I've got several announcements. Again, I'm going to ask for prayer for Scott Cole. And Scott's a dear friend of ours. And, in my personal 10th of Tevet experience, the 10th of Tevet just, when I lost my daughter, it just tore us to bits. Scott was one of the biggest converts that he was there. Edgar Ramos was there for me. There were numbers of people that were there, and there were people everywhere that were praying. It made a difference. I'm asking for prayer for Scott. He needs it right now. I'm also asking for prayer for our two daughter-in-laws and the babies they're carrying. Caitlin, her baby has a heart condition, and they're going to do a C-section on the 21st of January. And we don't know how bad it's going to be until the baby's born, but please be praying that goes very well. Also, Brandy, that's David's wife, she is expected to deliver early, okay? And so we're on standby constantly. But she called today. She has a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and the baby is just right at 5 pounds. It's over 5 pounds. It's not under, but just at 5 pounds. And the baby's doing good. The heart sounds good. The baby's moving good. All of those things. But Brandy's not gaining weight. She's losing weight. And so please be praying there. They possibly are going to induce labor. We don't know yet. Probably we'll find out something more tomorrow. They might do a C-section. We don't know. These things were mentioned by the doctor's office. So be praying for that. Now, for Havra, Gabriel Gallegos is going to post up a link to a video where I went with Edgar Ramos. Gabriel was on that tour, and he filmed the whole time. And so he's going to put up a film of the stepstone structure. You'll be able to see the toilet that I was talking about, all of these things. And there are numbers of videos that he has little short teachings that he's got up there that you can go to. The last thing that I want to mention is that we're going to have time tonight for questions. And so put your questions together, start going ahead and filling them in. And again, if you'll hit the like button, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, and also the share, these really help us. Okay. And so last week was phenomenal. All the questions that came in, I love looking and seeing who all's, watching and everything. And a lot of people I haven't talked to in a long time. Others I talk to frequently. So it really it gives me a boost to see everyone. Okay. I do want to, I had it pointed out that I um, put January 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's actually December 28th, 29th, and 30th. Um, uh, my world, I live in the Jewish calendar. I don't live in the Gregorian calendar. And so I'm going to make mistakes there. All right. We're going to get back in here. And before I start sharing the screen, uh, the in the article from Rabbi Foreman, they're talking about how that we grow complacent. Okay, and there are many areas that we have become conditioned to. We just accept this is the way things are. And one of those things has to deal with all the woke stuff, all the this craziness, um, the violence, and all the reasons for the violence, but the anti-Semitism is something that we definitely need to be a voice against. Now, in being a voice, whenever I go to the kosher markets and everything, I used to wear T-shirts and everything that talk about Am Yisrael High, things like that. You have to choose. You know, don't be foolish. Okay, don't be foolish. At the same time, you cannot allow the evil that's around us to affect us and cause us to lower our standard. Okay. All right. Let me see. Let me fix this. Don't forget to get your questions. All right. I'm going to read this slide. This is the last slide that we had done. Jeremiah warns a population that's become so accustomed to lies that they've lost the ability to blush. The problem isn't that people suddenly became monsters. The problem is that they slowly stopped noticing what was happening around them. Small compromises compounded, minor injustice accumulated, standards eroded bit by bit until what would have been shocking a generation earlier had become unremarkable. What happened next was already inevitable. By the 10th of Tevet, Jerusalem's fate was sealed. The city still stood, but the real choices had already been made. In the decades of normalized corruption, accepted injustice, and hollow religiosity that preceded the siege, the ordinary people then were the officials who had looked away from exploitation, the priests who maintained rituals while ethics collapsed, the citizens who rationalized injustice because speaking up felt too costly. Excuse me. By the time Nebuchadnezzar's army surrounded the walls, those ordinary people had already built the conditions for their own destruction. They weren't villains, they were people who had slowly learned to accept the unacceptable until acceptance became participation. All right, the prophet Zechariah, speaking about this fast centuries later, calls it the fast of the 10th month and links it directly to the other commemorations of Jerusalem's fall. Thus said the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, okay, that's Tammuz, 17th of Tammuz, the fast of the 5th month, 9th of Av, the fast of the 7th month, that's the fast of Gedaliah, which is on the Tishri 3, and the fast of the 10th month the 10th of Tevet, shall become occasions for joy and gladness, happy festivals for the house of Yehuda, but you must love honesty and integrity. Okay, so they're prophesying to become days of rejoicing. Let me predict we're going to have significant events. If you go back and look at the history of the 9th of Av, I'm going to encourage everyone to do that. You can Google it and ask what happened on the 9th of Av historically. Okay. And you're going to find this long list of all these various things that happened on that day. Well, you know what? Same thing for the 17th of Tammuz. If you go through and you look, when world events change, they're going to change on God's days. Okay. And that's the way that it's set up because Jerusalem is the center of the universe. Okay. Jerusalem is everything revolves around Jerusalem. And so we live in a different world that Israel is seen as, oh, it's one of those things. Now, last week I did on the attitude of the Holy Temple during the time of Alexander Yannai. Okay, and it talks about how that the Jews of that period could not imagine a world without the temple, that they would give their lives for the temple. We don't have that today. We don't have it, but that's one example of the many, many examples that we have. All right. Let's go back. All right. But here's what's striking. He lists it first, the fast of the 9th month. Before the fast of the 10th month, excuse me, before the fast that mourn and actual destruction. The calendar itself teaches us that the beginning matters more than the end, that the moment when decline becomes inevitable is more significant than the moment when it finally materializes. This is a fast day about consequences that haven't materialized yet, about warnings that still have time to be heeded, about the moment when you can still turn back, but only if you recognize where you're heading. I want to relate this. 120 years from the time that Noah heard a flood's coming, from the time that he was given instruction to build an ark. Okay, and I'm sure people called him crazy. I'm sure people laughed at him. I'm sure that people said, oh, he's this idiot over there doing these things. And yet there were signs. One of the signs was the animals appearing and the fact that they appeared in pairs and the fact that they were divided between the clean animals and the unclean animals. And if someone was watching, they should have been saying, what's going on? What's going on? We have become accustomed to the war in Ukraine. We have become accustomed to Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and the Houthis. We have become accustomed to everything to where that, oh, something happened, that's interesting, and pass the peanut butter. Okay. And so it does not sink in. We're not now. I did all these headlines and it looks like, wow, China is going to invade Taiwan. It's coming. China is going to invade Taiwan. I don't know. There's this way that everything will speed up, then it backs off, it slows down. Because I believe firmly that when all the birth pains begin, it will be on Rosh Hashanah in the future. Okay. And you go, how can we last from here to there? Well, I've heard that 1,000 times, if not more. And so all through the years, people say, it's got to be this year. It's got to be this year. I don't know when it's going to be. I do know that God has given us all the signs. God is basically, we're the people, and we can see the clouds gathering in the skies. And know this, when China invades Taiwan, what are we going to do? Okay. I mean, we're talking they can move forces there in no time. They have a massive, huge, we can never counter it. Yeah, the Taiwanese, they can fight hard, but it's an ant fighting an elephant. The Ukraine, and everything that is happening there. Do they want peace? I don't think so. Is it going to expand? I think it will. I'm sure it will. It's going to expand, and it's going to, we have all these cell groups that are here. Is it going to happen? Yes, it's going to happen. I don't know when. I know that we're at a tenth of Tevet. I know that we are where what happens now is going to eventually explode into all these things. And so it might back off. It might back off. It might be actually several years before these things occur, but it's coming. And the God gives us this opportunity to be able to see as it comes. Okay. All right. All right. The biblical text. Uh, give us the coordinates with clinical precision. And in the ninth year of his reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar moved against Jerusalem with his whole army, who besieged it, and they built towers against it all around. 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 1. The verse doesn't describe flames or screams, it describes arrival, encirclement. And then this key phrase, and this is the last, it's not the last of the article, but the last that I put in from Rabbi Foreman's group. It's the beginning of the end. Actually, that is both of them. Okay. That's all the articles. All right. Now we're going to do something very different tonight. We're going to go on to we're going to go on to the uh, all right, to the questions. All right. Let me go up here. All right. Barbara and Guy. All right. And let's see. From Wisconsin, Deb Galecta Heath. Okay. Tim Smalley. Always remember that time in Tennessee when your sukkah was next to ours. Okay. And Betty Brush. Known Betty for years. Scott Paddock was here last week. Scott, I got to tell you, that's the best flashlight I ever had. That is unreal. Charlotte, we're going to have some, I have some things I'm going to bring out on the tipple that I think are pretty amazing. Mike Venture. Mike's been with us to Israel numbers of times. Richard, I got to get your book back to you. And Gail, I was thinking about you today. I was remembering your son. Okay. And so it's good to see you. Ron Runyon. And Ron, it's good to see you here. I enjoyed meeting you in Mississippi. All right. Scott writes, Zechariah 8:19 mentions the four fasts besides Yom Kippur. That's right. And people will over and over say, oh, that's not those fasts, those were set up by Israel, and God doesn't recognize those. Always love the passage that says, where Yeshua's talking, and he's talking to, I think it was some of the Beit Shammai Pharisees, but he made a statement: "You do greatly err not knowing the scriptures." And uh, the scriptures are this fascinating world that we go into. And the amazing thing is that you keep seeing things you didn't see before. And all right, Crystal Clapp from North Carolina and Beth Ann Childries. Very good to see you. I think about you often this time of year. Dan Solis from Plano. All these people. Shalom from Puerto Rico. All right. Absolutely. And oh, Stensroods from New Mexico. Okay, we are on Facebook. Are not seeing any slides after headlines Sunday, January 28th, 29th. I think the slides have been going up. I'm not sure, Scott, why you weren't. Teddy Lopez. All right. All right. Mike Fincher writes, after 2020, and I think we have been battle hardened. So 2020, of course, is COVID. Seeing things that we thought could never happen, gaslighting us, now lying to us when the truth is right in front of us. It's like, oh, yeah, already seen that. I am guilty of being lax and blowing things off. And I agree. I think all of us are. All right, here are the videos of the city of David, the step stone structure. You can see the toilet. Marianne Lombardi. Always remember that trip, Marianne. This is the time for wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Yeah, if you could ask one question about this topic, what would it be? Ask more than one. All right, what do I make of the uprisings in Tehran? First off, the accusation is that the Mossad, the Israeli intel unit or branch, is behind the uprisings. I'm sure that Israeli intelligence is involved. Okay. But the reality is that the people of Iran, for the most part, uh, are very, very tired of the oppressive regime. Um, it is a situation that is dire. It indicates, it's an indicator that Iran is about to explode. I think that they fear the citizens that are against the regime. I think that they fear that the Iran is going to become a target of Israeli attacks, the United States, and they have applauded the attacks that have been performed against them. But I think that it is a very, very dangerous thing for it to be a protester against that regime. It takes a lot of guts, and but I think that things will unfold within the next 3 to 4 weeks in between Israel and Iran, and possibly even the United States and Iran. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. Uh, joined with the we have numbers of events that are occurring right now in northern Iraq, northern Syria. There is a group of Hezbollah that are from Iraq. They are a splinter group. The Houthis are joining with them. They are, there's a fear that they're going to march south in the same time and go through Syria into Jordan and make an entry into Israel. Israel, in the meantime, is making new brigades to patrol that area. It is their weakest point. It is the longest border, all the way from the just south of the Sea of Galilee, the Canary, all the way down to Eilat is the Jordanian border, and there are numbers and numbers and numbers of places that could be entry points, and so it is a very real danger. Now, take the United Arab Emirates and what is going on with with Yemen, and we've got all these events that are taking place and a peace force that's coming in. So, talking about what's going on in Iran, it has to be seen in light of what Hezbollah in Lebanon. That's about to erupt. Hezbollah in Iraq, that's about to erupt. The Jordanian threat. I mean, all of these things put together, and we've got a situation that is very dire, and it's going to be a time that we really need to stand with Israel. Okay. Virginia Anderson, how strange to see you here. Now, you're here all the time. All right. Tim Smollett, not necessarily a question. However, as you, Michael Fincher, had mentioned and shown, is exactly what has happened here in America. We have been accustomed to these things now. Yeah, and it's dangerous. Okay, Richard Setzinger. We need to be aware that at the same time, Hashem is moving in people, nations, and continents. That's right. Do not. I'm glad you brought that up, Richard, because first off, the bad is happening. The way we deal with it is not dealing with it. But at the same time, we need to be able to see the tremendous things that are happening toward, in the land of Israel. And if we have enough time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how things are changing in the temple research world. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm glad you rebooted. Yeah. Okay. What is my take on Israel recognizing Somaliland? I haven't even been able to digest that one, to be honest. I've been so centered on the problem that we have here. Minnesota, Washington, Los Angeles are all getting linked into this thing. The numbers of politicians that are involved here, the Islamic thrust to take over Europe and to take over the United States. And that is a very, very real danger. I'll see what I can find on them recognizing Somaliland. Okay, because I really don't have a comment to make, and that's not good. What did you think about Netanyahu warning Trump about Iran attacking the United States with nuclear weapons? I think that I'm glad that he did this. I'm sure that the United States intel was, also aware of this. But Israel and the United States need to work together. Okay, and it's very effective when they do work together. And I, I really I have some second questions on a lot of the peace deals that are being made that just don't really appear to be peace deals. They appear to have the name peace, but anything but. And I'm afraid that what's happening in Gaza is that Hamas is recruiting, Hamas is rearming, and we're going to be right back to October um, of 2023, that it will be start the war over, and now we'll have the problem of all these nations in there that are going to be a real conflict. Okay, so it could be a really tough thing. Oh, Larry Rilling, my goodness, that's years. I still have that T-shirt you gave me. Um, okay, Terry Martin put up that Israel 365 has a short video on small land. Okay, so you might want to take a look at that. And listen, I'm gonna tell y'all something that's happening in the temple, and it's pretty amazing. It's not something that happened this week or last year. It's been slowly coming out, but basically, there was a bar magazine that came out years ago that the front cover, I loved the front cover. And it said everything we knew about the water system in the city of David is wrong. Okay, that's a pretty profound statement to come from an archaeologist, and that's exactly where it was coming from. And basically, everything that we thought about the temple, they thought that the western wall of the temple, the southern wall of the temple, the royal store, all of these were built during the time of King Herod. Lo and behold, they found out that they didn't even start construction of any of those things. The western wall, the street that ran along the western wall, Robinson's Arch, Barclays Gate, Wilson's Arch, the Warren's Gate, none of that was there until at the earliest 30 Common Era. They didn't even start construction on any of it till after 20 Common Era. Okay. And you know, it's not the type of thing that you put up in a few weeks. And so uh, it is a huge, huge thing. They are continually at this point redating and having to go back and say, wait a second, this was wrong, and so forth. A lot of what I had in Measure the Pattern, we had that there was a Hasmonean extension. Now we don't believe that. We believe that we have a different way that we understand the stones in the Hasmonean period stones that were in the eastern wall of the temple. We have a different interpretation of that. But the royal stoa, the beautiful gate, all of these things we're having to reevaluate, and what do they mean? And so it's a constantly changing world. And um, hopefully somewhere in the next few months, we're going to hold a big Zoom meeting. Part of it will, one of the topics that we might cover will be eschatology. And then we'll hold a different one, possibly on some of the temple discoveries and some of the things that were learned. Edgar Ramos just returned from Israel with amazing pieces of material, video, all kinds of various things. I mean, it's just tremendous. We are going forward at a rate that I've never seen before in my life in learning, having to very quickly reassess and move forward with new questions and so forth. It's a tremendous thing. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down if no questions come in. But if you if you have enjoyed this, hit the like button before you go and share it. Okay? All right. Shalom, everyone. And be safe, be alert, and let's improve our game a little. Okay? All right. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, mi nombre es Gabriel Gallegos. Saludos a todos aquellos seguidores de Active Ministries, en especial a nuestra comunidad latina. El día de hoy queremos compartir con ustedes uno de los artículos más impresionantes que podemos tener en nuestra tienda virtual. Te invitamos a que te quedes y a conocer más del modelo tridimensional del templo. Les presento el nuevo modelo del templo. Una de las cosas adicionales que se han agregado en esta impresión es esta base donde está de una manera inclinada de 45 grados. ¿Para qué? Para que pueda enseñarse mejor a nuestra audiencia. O si usted, al igual que a mí, le gusta ponerlo de la manera tradicional y ponerlo en una superficie plana, pues también puedo hacerlo. De esta manera usted lo puede poner en su oficina o en su lugar de estudio o en su lugar de reunión. ¿Para qué? Para que la gente pueda admirar la gran maravilla de lo que se ha podido llegar a hacer. Ahora les voy a invitar a que me sigan acompañando para mirar las siguientes adiciones que se le han agregado a este nuevo modelo. Uno de los nuevos aspectos de este nuevo modelo tridimensional son los colores que se han añadido, como el color oro, el color blanco, un café y un café un poquito más claro. Podemos mirar el color blanco en los 15 escalones que están en el atrio de las mujeres, como también en las 4 lámparas. Podemos mirar el color blanco en el misbeach, en el altar, como también en los 2 escalones que están entre el ulam y el altar. Podemos encontrar este color blanco también en estos pequeños mikvaot o también baños de inmersión que se han añadido. También podemos apreciar en el Mizbeach, el altar, se agregaron a color las 3 fogatas y en el centro podemos encontrar de color café más claro las cenizas del altar. Otro de los buenos beneficios de este modelo es de que los edificios adicionales, el techo puede ser removido. En el edificio sureste podemos mirar cómo el área donde el Sanedrín se reunía para hacer sus juicios, y también se ha agregado un color azul en donde está el lavacro para así poder distinguir las diferentes áreas. Les agradecemos mucho a cada uno de ustedes, especialmente a la comunidad latina, por estarnos acompañando. Pueden ir a Jerusalem Temple Studies y buscar la opción tienda o store en inglés y luego buscar modelos del templo y ahí podrán obtener el suyo. Bendiciones y gracias por su apoyo. Shalom.
Okay.